Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about a book that I got from an artist that I like called Draw. Brett Bean Breaks Down the Art of Drawing. Is that really that's the full title? Brett Bean Breaks Down the Art of Drawing. Okay. I bought this book because I like Brett. The first time I think I saw Brett Bean, actually I think I saw him online first, but the first time I bought something of his was I saw this comic in the store. It looks like it's from 2016. This is a Scotty Young cover, but I opened this up. And I just like what I saw, and so I bought this. Yeah, so I really like Brett. He's very cartoonish. Of course, that makes me biased. That's this kind of stuff that I like. But he's just an all-around, general good artist. He can draw characters and scenes and environments. He's not limited. But I love the squash and the stretch and the play with the shapes. I love this mouth. It's very three-dimensional and graphic at the same time, and I think that's a perfect balance. Of course, that suits comic books very well. There's a cool shot here I want to show. Yeah, just like, look how cool that shot is that he did. I just like all of it. You can tell he did this digitally, but I think now he does a lot of ink work for his comics. I don't know. Yeah, how can you not love this? I mean, even look at the little designs in the wood, and everything's designed. That's what I really like, the gooey trail from the fingers of this monster thing. There's a design and there's an outline to it. The effects on the guns. Everything has a design. It's beautiful. What can I say? But I was lucky enough to work with Brett on Crash 4, and I highlighted a couple pieces that I like of his. It was not much. He actually did way more on this game than what this book shows. This book only shows a small fraction of the work that everybody did. Because look at how thick this book is. This is a thick art of book. I think it's the thickest one I have. It's thicker than all the Disney movies and all that stuff. And this is just a small fraction. You'd have to make like 3 tomes to really fit all the work that was done. But this is Brett's crap. I don't even have to look in the credits to know what his work is. I can just recognize it. I don't know. I just freaking love that crap. He's really great at these little creatures. Like, it's a cute creature, right? Because of the proportions in the eyes. But there's a lot of detail going on. It's not overly simplified. It's kind of a problem that I have sometimes, is the lack of detail. But he manages the detail very well for these small things. Yeah, here's another. Can I fit this in the frame? Yeah, here's another piece that he did. It's very much a comic book panel, really, right? He's got the black outlines, and you can see here in the image there. And I think really Brett kind of started me thinking about comics the most, because of how much you can show with just lines, and how clear line work is instead of just fuzzy fuzz. So like what I mean is like these the smoke here, it's actually drawn in. And I feel like that's the most clear way to represent it, is to actually have a line that defines what the thing is. And so when he was posting this kind of stuff, I think it really changed, it helped change the way that I think. But of course, when you get to the final render, some of those lines go away. Like, there's not a line around these strands of smoke. But you don't need it. The details, what you need, are there. Yeah, and that's another thing that he's really good at. Look at this cute little hot dog stand. Again, it's another example of like, it's a cute small thing, but it has the detail of something that's big, but it's not overwhelming. The management of detail is very good. I mean, look how tiny the eyes are in the overall image. They're not overbearing. Look how much negative space is there on the face. His eyes are pushed up real small, and his mouth is even smaller down here. These two little things look like a nose, right? It's just very good balance of shapes, or good management of shapes. How fun is that? The ketchup and the mustard. Again, look how simple these are. I mean, they're not. Well, I mean, you can even see. Look at. I mean. You got. I don't know who did this art. This piece above, but I mean, look how nicely rendered all that. Look at that metal. I mean, it looks like real metal. That's great, and nothing against this kind of thing, but that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of work. Whereas look at what Brett's doing with these cars. It's really symbolic of how he's representing things. That's not really how the glare on the window works, but it's like a symbol of it to get that clarity across, quickly and efficiently. And ultimately, I think images like this read the most clear, as opposed to things that are over-rendered. But it's perfect for concept art, because this is basically all you need to know to model these things and to turn them into 3D objects. I mean, look at the kebab on the truck and everything. They're fun ideas. I think Brett's a good example of being able to have the drawing ability to get the ideas out, which in concept art is of prime importance. To be able to get the idea out. I think a lot of people think concept art is rendering. Really, this kind of stuff. It's getting that idea out as clearly and quickly and efficiently as possible. This is me really just fanboying over his work. Look at these little trash cans that he did. He didn't do anything else on the page, just these trash cans. Again, look at where the eyes are placed. They're all the way down at the bottom. They're not in the middle. They're pushed all the way down the bottom, and it's almost like the trash can, it's kind of like a negative space, but it's like a rest area, and you have this little personality underneath it. Excellent management of shape and proportions. And I would say this is style agnostic. He doesn't have to be a cartoony trash can. This could be a totally realistic trash can done the same way, but the proportions are going to be important in any style that you design this kind of thing in. He just happens to do it cartoony, but it doesn't really matter. Anyway, that's how I know him. That's why I like Brett, and that's just kind of an overview of where I'm coming from. Let's put that aside. So I got this book about his drawing philosophies and so forth. I got this book as soon as it came out. I think there were some previews of what it was like online. And it looked to me like an overall draw book. Before I look at it, his book reminded me the most of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. And that's because, I mentioned this book before. I'll probably talk about this book a lot. I should actually make a whole video on How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, the book. But this book goes over all the things. This book will dedicate a page or a paragraph to something that deserves its own book. So it's just like a very good broad overview of everything. And I kind of feel the same impression that I got with this book. Now, I didn't read all of this, of Brett's book. I only read a couple pages, honestly, so you're going to get some live reactions. But that's okay, because, get it yourself and look at it. But I'm just going to kind of show you what I like and what I'm into, what appeals to me here. Okay, so first off, what a great art book. I don't know, how cool is that? I like this image. That'd be cool as a print. Okay, so I'm going to flip through here. Here's the table of contents. I'm not going to share every single page, but, some of this stuff you can find on your own. I'll just point out what I think is interesting and all that. But look at the topics covered. How to use this book, your supplies, and the tools. Then he goes over the like anatomy, okay? Character design, creatures, props and vehicles, environments, and then some other stuff. There's a lot of philosophy in this book. Philosophy as in like related to art. But it generally covers everything. I mean, a lot of books are like, just this part, just this part, just character design, just creatures. So he goes, when he does this book, it's almost, it's like he's talking to you. There's a lot of like fun jokes and things like that. That also reminds me of how Draw the Marvel Way, because you have Stan Lee's like witty commentary. But yeah, a lot of this is like just his like life thoughts in regard to art. I mean, look at this. Some of the stuff in here. He's not telling you how to draw this thing. He's like, there is no straight lines to success or create more than you consume. I mean, this is just life advice. Talks about supplies. I'll just show some of his art there. This is just cool. I mean, when I open up this book, I kind of just stop and look at the artwork more than the how-to kind of stuff. Just a couple of drawings. I think I'm just looking at the art now. I'm not even looking at the instruction or the writing. It's just like, look how pretty this is. Again, look at it. There's just another thing that I really like about him is that this is a very simple character, and you can break him down even simpler. I think he's broken down as simple as he needs to be, but I mean, look how much detail is on that glove, right? Or this little thingy. Like it's very good management of detail. You want to learn about all his tools? They're in here. But I think a lot of this book isn't so much holding your hand or telling you how to do it like him. It's really just the overall. It's just like a big collection of art principles that you should know, all collected into one place. I mean, it's basically distilling like a library of things into one simple place to reference. That's kind of how I see myself looking at the book. It's just reading a couple pages every now and then. It's not like a course. It's more like a good reminder and good, rules of thumb that you want to keep in mind. Yeah, his thoughts on motifs and patterns and all this stuff. This is something that he's really good at. Look at the example image here. I just love it. It's something you do in comic books. Like this is all white negative space. It's an area of rest, right? So you don't get overwhelmed. And then the areas that don't really matter so much. Look how much detail that is. It's almost like telling you like you don't really have to look here, but isn't it nice that it's there? And all of it really just puts the emphasis on this gnome guy, because he's like white on black. Yeah, it's just nice. It's just nice to look at. You can also use detail to just push things back into the distance. I didn't read the page. I'm just talking here, but it's all good, man. Look at this. You can tell you can tell he did this on paper. You can see where he cut out the halftone. Yeah, just a lot of very just. Like an overview of all the fundamentals, you know what I mean? Like it's a good reference point. It's a good starting point. Like if you get this book and you think, I don't really understand that, I want some more, then there's always going to be books that go over these topics in more detail. But it's basically a book that looks to me that just tells you all the things that you really need to know. The color keys, I mean, how many composition classes have you taken and they go over this kind of stuff? He's got it here on just one page. Here's stuff that I need to look at more. The texture. The texture with the black lines. Even color theory. I mean, look at that. Going over perspective. Might be more than what you have in the Marvel book. I don't remember. But it's similar, right? I mean, you get a whole book on this. But there you go. This is basics. This is the basics. This is the basics that you need to know, right? The vanishing point. 1 point perspective. That's all 1 point, isn't it? 2 point perspective. and 3-point perspective. I mean, it really is as simple as what you find in here, you know. And that's how you would do it. I mean, you just practice this until you get it, and then you can move on with your life. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. Some thoughts on composition, the thumbnails and the layouts. I mean, that's just really one spread, but I mean, this is stuff you got to deal with. I like the idea of it, breaking it down in a very simple way, or it's like brief, you know, but that's kind of how it should be in your head. It shouldn't be too complex, or else it's harder to wrap your head around. Even light and shadow. Yeah, he's got exercises in here. I'm not going to draw in this book, but pretty cool. I think when you buy the book, I bought it from 3D Total, and they had online resources. I think if you look at the book's actual store page, it has the PDF of all these exercises that you can do. But man, I remember doing these exercises, the heavy texture to from busy to simple. I mean, I need to go back and practice that. Again, that's how that's how I see myself doing it. Just opening up, see what he's talking about, and just, give it a shot. Like, I need to spend some time, doing the exercises here. In the contour lines on the random shapes, I mean, it's basic, but I mean, you got to be able to do it. The character part. There's a lot of nice rules of thumb here. Again, it's a lot of the underlying thinking behind things, more so than a step-by-step guide. I don't think so far I haven't really seen a step-by-step. It's really just a lot of theory. Theory and examples. But yeah, this is the thing about the cartoony stuff. The idea of this mask here on the face, how are you gonna? How much of that are you gonna see in a more realistic book? That's the thing about this book, or stylized drawing in general. It's not really that different than realistic art. If you do photorealistic stuff, you still need to know this. The mask. Is he calling it a mask? He calls it a bandit mask. Yeah. And you look at the old classic Disney guys, they draw the mask. There's some people who say you always have to draw the mask no matter what, even if you don't show it. There's a lot of people that just don't ever forget the mask. But you don't really get that in a lot of stuff that I see outside of cartoony kind of drawings. But I mean, a lot of this is just, manipulating the proportions and putting a style on top of it. I mean, that's what he's doing here with these skeletons. This is his interpretation of what some of this stuff could look like, but it doesn't have to look cartoony. You can make it look however you want. Hands, the basic of hands. I think this is my favorite spread in the whole book, because this is new to me, the way he thinks about feet. I mean, it's kind of genius. This is boomerang shape, and depending on how you draw the lines, you have a different foot. Maybe I can even illustrate that a little bit. All right, you have the boomerang shape that he's doing. Again, this is all new to me. That's why I like it so much. Let's draw two of them. Oh, it's hard to draw this way. Okay. What he has in the book here is the under part of the foot, right? Well, it's like the exercise that he had on the other page about contour drawing. But look at this. Does he have one that's like this? Not really, but look what happens there. It's the top of the foot. It's the same shape, but this is the bottom. And this is the top. Let me get a different color. I just have black. See, there's the contours. Center line. But it's really showing you a more shape shape-oriented way to draw more so than like a 3D way to draw. Man, yeah. That's what I would do if I were you and you're learning to draw, or you just want to spice things up or learn some style. Look at this page. I think this really sums up a lot of stuff. Doing the shape and then cutting out the inside of the shape to make a 3D form. I mean, that's really what a lot of stylization is about. Most of this video is just me talking without even doing a lot of. I haven't read this page. This is me just shooting from the hip, so don't think I'm an expert on any of this. But I saw this and it reminded me of Bridgman's life drawing, and this is a point that I want to make to you people. They're talking about the same thing here, right? You see that? The balance, how the balance works. I mean, you can read these books to know about it, but the point I want to make is that the style doesn't matter. These are principles that you use whether you're drawing, like Bridgman, like a Bernini statue, you know what I mean? Or if you're drawing like Brett, which is more cartoony, it doesn't really matter. The principles are the same. I think even, highly professional artists still have a hard time grasping that the underlying principles, like the underlying, idea of balance and the shapes and the proportions and the forms are completely style agnostic, meaning it doesn't matter what style you put on top of it. It just matters what's underneath. Once you realize that, I feel like you've unlocked like a power. You know what I mean? Like when you look at your own drawings and you're like, man, what's not working? Why does it look so stiff? Blah, 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 blah. It's probably because you're ignoring stuff like this because you see a cartoon face on it and you think that it doesn't apply to you, but I'm telling you it applies to you. It's the underlying foundation of what it is, right? Maybe we can get some more. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about here. This frog guy, see that? That doesn't. This is what matters. This little sketch, right, with the forms, and you know what's going on, and then you can draw whatever you want on top of it. But he drew a cartoony frog. It could be any kind of frog. It could be a totally realistic frog. Once you get this is the most important thing I think when it comes to drawing well. Or to draw freely from your imagination, is to be able to get a sketch like this and just put, dress it up however you want. Okay, what else we got? Character design. Now, I definitely want to read this. I should read this before I talk about it. Yeah, I like stuff like this. I mean, this happens to me all the time. I should probably read this, shouldn't I? Try to tighten them. Yeah, okay, so here he is. I read it. Okay, so push the character to an extreme conclusion and create more angles and find the flow. I always end up with a sketch like this. It always ends up being like the first sketch, and it's like, it's not working. It's so stiff. I mean, like the straight line and, all that stuff. But then you redraw it and you draw right over it. You get something a lot stronger. But I appreciate how he shows the before and the after of how you would take something that's a little bit more stiff and then make it more dynamic. So look how cool that gun is. I think it's cool. And look at this. This is another thing I want to point out. Look, the zigzag line of action, right? That's actually more complicated, isn't it, than this line of action. This is like C shape, right? But this character has more detail than this character, because this is a sketch, right? It just inherently has less detail because it's not refined yet. But the more simple line of action carries the more complex design, right? So I think that's also an important observation to make. Avoiding overly complicated poses for the sake of, simple overall shapes that ultimately end up being more readable, even if they have more detail. Shape exploration. Oh, these are always more fun. Trying to figure out. Well, that's actually kind of a cool exercise. Take a shape like that and then just do two more values, like a dark and a white. Yeah, that'd be fun to try. I might actually try it. Does he have an exercise for that? I might try that out. Okay, so he's going into some shape breakdown. He's going into some shape breakdown, and there's another thing I want to point out about this book. You know, it's a good, like, okay, here's the concept, here it is, and then there'll be a whole other book about that one concept. And I feel like what he's talking about here, breaking down the shapes, like what you got, what's the relationships between these shapes and how big do you make them? I mean, there's a book that, you know, talks about that exclusively almost, is, you know, The Silver Way by Stephen Silver. This is another great book. But, you know, I want to compare these books, where Brett has like an overall approach, whereas, you know, Stephen's book is only about character design, nothing else. You won't learn about perspective and environments and, you know, composition of a scene. You literally, where is it? I mean, Stephen Silver goes like into the nitty gritty of how to break down shapes and make them relate to one another, even with these kind of abstract angles and lines of like how to make one appealing compared to the other. I mean, this is what this whole book is, you know. So, you know, all these topics are worthy of a whole book. And hey, look, it's balanced, just like the Bridgman book. But yeah, you flip through all of Stephen's book, it's all character design, shape relationships. Again, if you think that this is only applicable to cartoony stuff, you are fooling yourself. This applies to all artists. Okay, so here's some step-by-step. There you go. But I think this is the most important stage in a drawing, at least for me. This is the stuff that needs to be figured out before you can start adding details and to start, you know, you get to this point before you figure out what the style is going to be. Yeah, this is cool. I like the step-by-step. It's not, you know, the whole book isn't step-by-step, but there's a little bit. Yeah, I think that was it. He's got a couple more on the design process. But I'm going to bring up another book, because there's another book that reminded me, or made me think of his book. There's actually two books that I kind of clump as one. So you have the Ben Caldwell books. These are old. This is an old library copy, because this is all I could find. But Ben Caldwell, you know, he's also very cartoony. But you'll see through here, it's all step-by-step. You know, there's no room for the amount of content covered that Brett has. But this is an example of, like, you know, you like what you see in Brett's book, you want to learn more, you can jump over to, you know, a book like this, Action Cartooning from Ben Caldwell, and just, you know, learn the step-by-step for everything. What is this? Step-by-step. For all the poses, you know, similar mannequins. But I mean, this is the big difference between Brett's book and something like Ben Caldwell's book, or a lot of our books, is, you know, Brett doesn't have a whole lot of the step-by-step, which I think is good. It's more theory, it's more broad. But I mean, look at fantasy cartooning. I mean, this is so specific. Where is it? The heroic face. It just tells you what it is right there. You know, it's like the heroine, you know, a peasant. You know, Ben Caldwell has it like, you know, this is a knight. This is how you draw a knight, which is great. I think this is great practice. But again, it's so specific. I mean, I love this book. I look at this and I can definitely tell this specific book from Ben Caldwell has inspired different properties. It's out of print, unfortunately. When was this made? 2005. Yeah, that's why I got a library copy. It's been out of print for like almost 20 years. But yeah, you notice I'm flipping through, you know, this fantasy cartooning book, and I'm getting a lot of excellent instruction on how to draw characters or even creatures, right? And breaking down the forms. But I'm not getting a lot of like the theory and underlying stuff that you have in Brett's book. So that's why I feel Brett's book has the value. Exercises. Maybe I'll try some of these. Look at that. creatures. I mean, this guy covers the whole range. Yeah, the books that I just showed you, I mean, that's like, character design and creatures. I mean, the book I just showed you is like, just like a small, like a portion of this book, has all the things. This is cool. I just want to stop and look at his stuff. Like, I love the way he does texture, man. Of course, he has those exercises in the book to deal with texture, and obviously he knows what he's talking about. But I just love the little texture. He's really good at making simple things with really complicated texture that doesn't get too distracting. Props and vehicles. You don't see that talked about a lot. Or just props, really. Simple shapes. Look at that whole thing on environments. I mean, that's like a whole book could be devoted to that. Yeah, he's breaking it down in stages here. I see thumbnails with the line, different views you can do. Yeah, I mean, this is where all the work is done in this stage. These really rough sketches. This is where you figure everything out. And, I felt bad that I haven't read all this before talking about it, but, you can kind of see what's going on in just the pictures. I mean, he's over here worrying about the flow and the rhythm of the image, and I'm guessing with these circles, I can read what he said about the circles. What did he say? Okay, he's trying to establish depth and overlap. But this is the stage where you figure it out, this rough stage. You can move things around. I think he made some changes on these 2 pages, right? Environment exercise pages. Okay, and he just has a bunch of cool life advice at the end. And there's Brett. See, he's got paper hair. Okay, that's the book. I like books, so I'm probably going to talk about books quite a lot. It's easier to just shoot myself at a table talking about a book, and I like books. I like books, and I like talking about books, so I'm gonna talk about books. I hope you liked it. I think the main purpose was just to talk about something that I liked, more so than trying to convince you to buy it. You should buy it, but I just wanted to talk about it because I like it. Pretty art book. So there you go. I like Brett's book. I like Brett. Go get it. Yeah, I'd get the book. Aside from me just talking about something that I like, I guess I got to think about, maybe I should think about who would actually like to use this book and who would find it useful. I think that, I think some professionals would like it, especially if you feel like you have gaps in your skill set and you're like, well, how do I fill those gaps? I think this is a good overall book that shows you like the whole spectrum of things that you can identify where your own weaknesses are. And I think for beginners, it's also just a good overview. I mean, it's not a book that you can pick up and go through the whole thing and all of a sudden you can draw. I think this book's more geared towards teaching you how to be creative, more so than technical drawing abilities. And that's what I like about the book, and really Brett in general, is that he's very much like an artist. And by that, I mean like someone who can just like create things visually with just, you just give the guy a piece of paper and a pencil and an assignment and he's good to go. To me, that's important. I think we get caught up, or sometimes I got caught up in, what am I? Am I a character designer? Am I an environment artist? What am I doing here? I got to pick something. And the more I go on and the longer that I live and work, I think that's a silly way to think. I think it's all starting to blur together into just like one thing, whether it's environment, prop, character. Even when you use colors, even the stuff you learn in color helps you make black and white lines. It's all something that just kind of blends together. And I feel like Brett does a good job of making everything together work as kind of one thing, because it all is one thing. It's not as segmented as we like to think. I think we overcomplicate and segment things more than we should. And so it's good to have stuff like this that kind of just like does it all together. Like there's really no reason that you can't draw characters or environments, both, you can do those. It's not as hard as you think, because at the end of the day, it's about being creative and making something from your imagination, right? It's all making 3D shapes, whether that 3D shape is a house or a head, it doesn't really matter. So there you go. Good book. And I also want to point out, Brett has like a huge variety of things that he can do, like, and you just think creatively and you can just draw. You have a lot of power. There's a lot of things you can do. You don't have to be restricted into like, oh, I'm just an illustrator, or I'm just a character designer, I'm just blah, blah. The guy he's done video games, movies. He's working on comics right now. When you're that versatile, that's really impressive. And I feel like that's a goal that we kind of all should have, I mean, I don't know about you, but I like the idea of just drawing a bunch of different things. I think it's nice to step back and just be creative and have fun. Okay, yeah, so there you go. Pick up the book, draw a bunch of stuff, draw some mouths, draw some monster trucks, some vampires, and spooky environments, all that stuff. Okay, have fun. Thanks for watching this, and goodbye.